The selling point for this movie for me was that Daisy Ridley was doing an American accent. That's all it took. I'm a basic soul. The Marsh King's Daughter was directed by Neil Burger and stars Daisy Ridley and Ben Mendelsohn, and is also based on the book of the very same name. And here we follow a small village girl who is the daughter of a former kidnapper and has an extremely haunting past. But when a prison break occurs, which is linked to all of that, dark times are ahead for her and for everyone involved. The Marsh King's Daughter has had a pretty low-key run, despite the fact that it's had some pretty big names in front of it. Last time I checked the box office, I think it has about $900,000, which is abysmal, to say the least. So obviously it's not drawing a lot of audience attention, despite the fact it's based on a very well-selling novel, and it has some things to it that should attract people, but I think also things about it is who it's going up against and the R rating. But still, with that said, I'm finding a little disappointed this movie's doing as poorly as it was, but I nevertheless checked it out, and today I have to say it was an interesting watch that requires a lot of thinking about after seeing it. This movie is a mixed bag for me of some really great ideas and some poor execution, with some occasional moments shining through of sheer brilliance on the filmmaker's parts. But all in all, it doesn't always culminate in a way that feels entirely natural and doesn't always feel satisfying, but at times can actually follow through in a way to make you feel like you're fulfilled as an audience member. To start with the performances, Daisy Ridley is in here. She's doing her American accent, as I talked about at the beginning. And to be honest, it can be a little distracting at times because, I don't know, at least it was for me. Sometimes it sounds like it's slipping away and then she gets it back. But that was something that went back and forth. Other than that, though, Daisy Ridley is very good in here. She is playing this role with a lot of emotions that sometimes don't always work because of everyone around her, and that's not necessarily because of her, that's because of the direction, I think, also in this movie. But for the most part, she's able to play this woman in a very mature way. You can see the scars in her, and she's able to give out something that feels pretty entertaining on screen while also feeling in a way that's very somber and dark and scarred, like I said. I love her performance in here. I think she's absolutely fantastic. She does a really good job for the most part. Ben Mendelsohn's in here, and he's just kind of being Ben Mendelsohn, if I'm being entirely honest. He's giving a decent performance, but I feel like I've seen him do a lot better, including performances this year, like in To Catch a Killer and in Secret Invasion, so I wasn't as impressed by him. A lot of the supporting cast in general just seemed like they were hamming it up, and that didn't always work for me. On paper, this movie is fantastic. It has a lot going for it. The story in here, I think, lends itself to being intriguing, and it's something that I could see becoming a very well-made movie in the right hands of the right director. However, if I'm being honest, I don't think Neil Burger was the right director for this movie. This movie lacks a lot of tension. It lacks a lot of humanity and focus on character, and sometimes spends too much time trying to be dramatic than it is actually trying to tell the story in a way that connects with us, the audience. This movie has all the potentials to be a fantastic thriller, and there's failure not just through cinematography and direction, but in other ways, particularly the script writing, to actually flush that out in a way that could work. There's tons of opportunities in here, and this, again, handled by better filmmakers, could be fantastic. It just, unfortunately, isn't seen clearly here. For instance, there are large sequences in here where people are sitting down talking, but if you listen to what they're saying, they're not really saying anything of any importance at all. They're just talking for the sake of talking. And they lift some things for the novels. That's usually when things work, and that is brilliant. I think a lot of parts where it's just the characters interacting with each other function very well, but they could be better if there's a better focus on them. Some of the camera work in here is very strange. The music score is average. There's not a lot in here to really make it stand out. It kind of looks low quality at times, despite the fact this thing had an incredibly large budget for a film of this scale. It wasn't massive, but it still was decent. The film overall can feel a little lackluster. However, it has some really big standout moments in it because of the performance by Daisy Ridley. And those are a lot of the sequences where she has to be the center of attention. And there's times where she has to do things that are kind of uncomfortable and are hard and demanding of an actress, but she's able to do it anyway in a convincing way, in a way that feels very much human. I like that part of it. And also there are certain aspects, and particularly in the second act, that I think really worked for this movie. Developing with the build-up that's going on, and people trying to look for people, and how it's affecting everyone in the town. That was kind of good, but a lot of stuff didn't feel entirely fleshed out in this movie. This movie has a lot of missed potential, but there's so much there that I liked in sequences and segments, but it's not enough to override overall how the film did struggle, and could be some cliche things at time. And I can see how this movie could be good, which makes me want to love it more, but fortunately I can't. The Marsh King's Daughter is a movie that definitely is something that could have become something that was excellent, well made, and well executed. Unfortunately, it falls into something that's way more basic, a bit more cliche, and subpar than it could have been, instead of living up to its novel counterpart. And unfortunately, it brings it down quite a bit for me. I wouldn't recommend this to go see. Maybe if it popped online for free with ads or something, or rent, go then. I'm going to give The Marsh King's Daughter a 5 out of 10. So thank you guys always so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see y'all next time.